Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for Resources Matter, Do More to Waste Less. My name is Emily. I'm a Programs and Exhibits Specialist here at the Arlington Heights Memorial Library. Mary Allen is the Recycling and Education Director at Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County, also known as SWANCC. Mary, thank you for joining us again, and with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Terrific. Thank you, Emily, and welcome everyone this evening. I can't see your beautiful faces, but hopefully we'll have a good exchange of me providing some information, and then at the end of my presentation to open it up to any questions that you might have or comments pertaining to information that I've talked about. This evening's presentation, I changed the title just a wee bit. It is Earth Month in April, and I always like to think bigger. The solid waste and recycling and composting really are small facets of a very big environment. And sometimes it's nice to connect other dots about sustainability, and that's what my presentation this evening is going to do. As individuals, we make choices every day of what we buy, what we eat, wear, and use. Being an educated consumer helps connect the dots between products that we buy and use and the impacts that they have on the health of our families, our pets, and the environment. Additionally, most things from our houses can be thrown away in the garbage, but just because we can throw something away doesn't mean that we should. Getting rid of stuff can have positive benefits, but also can have negative unintended environmental consequences. So tonight, my presentation addresses waste prevention measures and ways to reduce contamination in your recycling cart, as well as tips to live more sustainably. I hope that you will find this information enlightening so that you can make changes where needed. A cornerstone of sustainable materials management is waste prevention through the circular thinking. By making, using, reusing, remaking, recycling, you keep that all going so there is no waste. It reuses biological nutrients or technical nutrients. It thinks about the next use for materials, not the end of life. And the idea is to design to reduce toxins in our products, kind of the idea of clean in, clean out. So reduce and reuse are the most effective means of waste prevention. Then comes recycling and composting, which is a piece of the overall solution. So is zero waste really achievable? With some major behavior changes and consumer modifications, there are people like B. Johnson that can brag about putting a year's worth of garbage in a jar. It's really not about a finish line to cross. It's about a process of taking steps to look at what you're doing to try and prevent waste and reduce consumption and waste. So the zero, it really is a continuous journey. This is a good guide that's blinking in the background, gives practical and sustainable tips on fashion, beauty, food, home, work, travel, and leisure. It demonstrates that it's about being good, but it's not about being perfect. There's a store that just opened in Evanston called Eco and the Flamingo. And it is a zero waste store where you go and either you bring your containers to fill with bulk product, or they have containers you can buy there. It's something that has been going on in European countries for a very long time. So now we're finally starting to see this trend coming to close to us, which gives us options as opposed to buying our products in a lot of packaging. The idea is to start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Committing to a more sustainable lifestyle certainly has tangible benefits. Remember, it's a process. Slow and steady has the greatest success in adopting new behaviors. Don't make the mistake of underestimating the implications of small changes. Simple does not mean unimportant. Even the simplest actions can make a difference when multiplied by many. A good place to start with being waste-free and reducing packaging is to start or improve upon single-use plastics such as straws, cups, cutlery, storage containers, film wrap, etc. Is investing in more reusable items. Additionally, when you make a purchase, look for products with little or no packaging in bulk when it makes sense. Be sure to keep your reusable bags for groceries, large and small, in the trunk of your vehicle so you have them when you stop to shop, as well as reusable containers in your car for when you dine out, since we're back to eating in restaurants, or many of us are. Don't take the styrofoam container home with you that they give you. Bring your own, put your food in it, and then it's reducing waste. There are many products that you can buy without packaging now, certainly for cleaning and beautifying ourselves. And I'll talk a little bit about a resource that the agency has to look for some of these items. Reuse, repurpose, and refurbish lengthens the lifespan of an item, whether it's for its original use or to fulfill a different purpose. There are many local opportunities to donate gently used items that we no longer want. Social media platforms offer us an opportunity in our neighborhoods like Buy Nothing to give away things, or to look for things that instead of buying, we could maybe get that somebody's no longer needs. Scarce is an organization in Addison in DuPage County that has a book rescue program. They have office surplus supplies. They take in broken crayons and melt them and make big crayons for children and adults with disabilities, so they can be artistic like everybody else. The Waste Shed is now not only in Chicago, but it's in Evanston. It's teamed up with the Evanston Rebuilding Warehouse, where they take in a lot of different artistic supplies that teachers and people in general can go in and buy for a fraction of the cost. And then up in Barrington, there's the All American Reclaim shop, which is so interesting. It has a lot of barnwood and barrels, but it also has some other interesting things taken from farms and homes to check out. And then, of course, in the corner here, we see these little libraries popping up in yards. I was out for a walk the other day and happened to see one that had puzzles in it. And I thought that that was a really nice idea. You pretty much can put in there anything that you would like to give away. It could be children's toys, it could be baby things, and books seem to be the number one that we see in them. Fashionable clothing looks like a bargain until we factor in the true cost to our planet and our society. Only 10% of the apparel purchased in the United States is made here. And on average, Americans will buy 67 new garments each year. Approximately 85% of our clothing and shoes end up in landfills. There are some talking points here on the slide. When you are in the need for something new, consider whether you need to even buy it. Could you borrow it? Can you find it at a resale shop? Can you just use what you have? And then look into the sustainability plans and the business practices. See if they're transparent. Who's making the clothes? Where are they being made? How are the people being treated? So there's a lot to think about when we go to look for something new to buy. Look for quality natural fibers such as hemp, organic cotton, tencel, bamboo, wool. They shed less, which is helpful for the microfibers out in our waters right now, along with microplastics, and they tend to last longer. So those are just some ideas for looking in your closets to see what you have, what you can use. what you can borrow without buying something new. Another way to be sustainable at home is stop throwing away good food. Globally, 1/3 of our food supply is wasted, which is equivalent to about $1,500 per year for a family of 4. The USDA, U.S. Department of Ag, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has a lofty goal to reduce food waste by 50% by 2030, which is not too far from here. So ways to prevent food waste include learn where your food comes from, buy local and regional non-processed foods as much as possible, don't overbuy, eat what you buy, and know that labels are misleading. Donate excess food to a pantry or shelter. SaveTheFood.com has a wonderful campaign that helps you understand labeling. The only thing that really needs a label date, an expiration date, is baby food. Everything else is a manufacturer guesstimate. So when you go to the refrigerator and you see the gallon of milk that has a date a couple days old, what you do is take off the cap and you smell it. If it smells pretty good, you pour yourself a little bit and you taste it. And you drink it as long as it tastes good. The food, the same way. Be an educated consumer. There are more than 85,000 chemicals in commercial products, and less than 15,000 of them have been safely tested. According to the Environmental Working Group, which is this, they have the clean 15 and the dirty 12, and third-party testing on a lot of cosmetics and personal care products and cleaning products. They say the average person is exposed to more than 126 chemicals before even leaving the bathroom in the morning. They have apps and resources. It's ewg.org. And anything that I have this evening, I will follow up with Emily to provide the resource where I got my information. Being an educated consumer, do your own research and purchase items that are safer, healthier, and better for you, your employees, your family, your pets, and our environment. I put together an eco-friendly marketplace guide that has lots of recommendations, websites, different kinds of categories to look for consumer products that fit those criteria. And then the Healthy House Institute has these 7 basic steps to adhere to make your home safer and cleaner. Among the most harmful toxins that can lurk inside your home are lead and pesticides, which studies have linked to brain and central nervous system damage, asthma, and even behavioral problems. Avoid excess exposure to harmful toxins and dust and chemicals to reduce the dangers in your home. So make a no shoes rule inside. When you get to the door, take off your shoes, because what's outside on other people's grass, even if you have grass that doesn't have pesticides on it, will come into your house either through your feet or the feet of your pets. Look for non-toxic cleaners. Even better, make them yourself. SWANCC has an eco cleaning guide that has some simple recipes for you to do all your cleaning with 3 basic things: lemon, baking soda, and water. Switch out Teflon, the non-stick pans and utensils for stainless steel or cast iron. DuPont has had a big suit against them for a very long time, with people being the Teflon of the non-stick causing a lot of different health issues and environmental issues as it's made. Choose plastics wisely and use them sparingly. Banish dust, get yourself a good Swifter, And check for dampness and water leaks, because mold really can grow fast as the weather starts getting hot. And if you have a problem with dampness, certainly get an air cleaner or air filtration. The best air filtration are plants. So speaking of plastics, less than 9% of plastic can be recycled at the curb. And anytime you put any of these items but one in your recycling cart, you're causing contamination. Though the materials, other than, since I can't see you and I can't ask you to raise your hand, the Coke bottle is the only product on the container on this slide that can be recycled curbside. It needs to be empty and clean, preferred cap back on. So anything else you see on this slide is garbage, unless it's something like a child's toy you can give away. There's also a program for the medicine bottles, as long as they're stripped of any kind of information. Matthew Ministries takes them to third world countries to reuse. And then TerraCycle has some programs for things like the juice pouches and toothpaste. Plastic bags and film like this can be taken back to many of the grocery stores. I know Mariano's and Jewel right now are participating in that program, where that plastic will be made into plastic lumber. So recycling right matters. When we don't recycle right, the items that we put in our cart will be landfilled instead of recycled at a cost to us. So it's just because things are made of paper, metal, plastic, and glass doesn't mean that it can go in your cart. Only these items can go in your cart. And this flyer is something that Emily will be sending you post presentation, along with some recycling guidelines. This is just a quick flyer. Materials need to be empty, clean, and loose. No bagging, recycling. Keep it loose and keep that lid down so your materials stay dry. If you have paper boxes, cardboard boxes, please make sure they're flattened and inside your cart so they stay dry on the days where it's going to be raining or snowing. I have been working with the Illinois Task Force for Recycling Contamination Solutions for 3 years. It's a group of recyclers, private companies like Groot, Republic, Waste Management, LRS, Flood Brothers, and government, local, regional, and state employees. And this year, I led a committee to write a script and do information about contamination. And you are the very first group to ever see this. The final cut came back to me today, and I hope this works as I planned it to work.
Welcome to Groot's Materials Recovery Facility. Each day, loads of recyclables from homes and businesses are brought here for sorting. Once materials are sorted and baled, they are sold to companies to make new products. Utilizing recycled materials instead of extracting raw materials from our earth conserves resources and reduces greenhouse gas emissions. However, wish cycling, or putting materials in your recycling cart that can't be processed, causes contamination. Just because something is made from plastic, glass, paper, or metal doesn't mean it can be recycled in your cart. It is important to know what materials are accepted and those that aren't, and why. Wish cycling is dangerous. Never put any of these items in your recycling cart. Lithium batteries, electronics, propane tanks, and non-emptied aerosol cans, because they can explode and cause fires, which can harm sanitation workers and the facility. Wish cycling is a health hazard. Medical and biological wastes, like masks, PPE, and needles, are a health hazard for sanitation workers. Put masks and other personal protective equipment in the garbage cart and look for special drop-off locations or programs for the other items. Wish cycling is a pain in the machine. Never put any of these materials in your recycling cart. plastic bags, film wrap, string lights, cords, or hoses. These are tanglers, which wrap around sorting equipment and can be dangerous for sanitation workers to cut out. Look for special recycling drop-off locations for these items or place them in your garbage cart. Wish cycling stinks. Never put these items in your recycling cart. Food, liquids, dirty diapers, and general garbage because they contaminate loads of good recycling. Materials must be empty and clean. No liquid, food, or organic matter. Wish cycling costs you money. When unacceptable items are put in your recycling cart, recycling companies must pay for the waste to be landfilled, a cost the consumer will end up paying. Be in the know before you throw.
I know some of you probably have questions, and again, put them in the chat, please, and Emily's going to help filter them for me so we can address them at the end of the presentation. So we'll move on to composting. Certainly, composting food scraps to make a soil amendment is better and higher use of the material rather than sending it to a landfill to generate methane gas, which impacts the warming of our atmosphere. The benefits, again, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, it improves our soil quality, it filters and retains water. Compost reduces the need for synthetic fertilizers. It improves the water quality protection, and it sequesters carbon. So make sure if you would like to try and compost where you live, to check with Arlington Heights ordinance to find out the do's and the don'ts. They do allow it, but there are some stipulations and criteria. And also the Arlington Heights has the municipal program where you can buy a 65-gallon or a 95-gallon cart to put very specific food organics in, along with yard organics. So you can visit your village's website for more details. And then be thinking, now that spring is here, sort of, rethink your lawn. This is what we've been told lawns need to look like, but look at the benefits of all this wonderful growth here. It's something, you know, it's edible, it's beautiful. It saves having to just mow to keep it low. I mean, certainly there's maintenance, but there is a lot of our benefits to getting away from traditional chemicals to manage your yard and household. You can also be thinking about planting native drought-resistant plants and grasses, as well as pollinators to welcome butterflies and bees. Look for trees and plants that are, because they're the lungs of our universe, by absorbing carbon dioxide and providing oxygen. And then trees and plants, as I had mentioned before, also filter air pollution. The rule of thumb is not to mow before Mother's Day, because in our debris, in the leaves, in the gardens, on the lawn, are larvae and organisms that really are feeding now on what's there for spring. And if you remove them or their habitats, then there will be less. Water conservation is also a way to be more sustainable at home. More than 1.1 billion gallon, more than 1.1 billion people do not have access to safe water, to include hundreds of millions of children. For most, the water is beyond their reach or it's polluted. Most residents of developing countries use about 5 gallons of water per day for everything they need, including bathing. The average global citizen uses about 13 gallons per day. Water used in Western Europe and the United States ranges between 50 gallons and 170 gallons per person per day. So what can we do? We can install low flow toilets, low flow faucets and shower heads. Make sure the wash machine and the dishwashers are full before running. Make sure you fix the leaky faucets and toilets. Turn off water while you're brushing your teeth. And if you're running the shower to wait for the water to get hot, capture that initial water in a bucket to water your indoor plants. Collect rainwater for watering outdoor flowers and plants. Water in the very early morning or the very late PM, because sun will evaporate the water that you put on while it's out. Drink from the tap and buy a filter. Those are all some are simpler than others, but the idea is to find something that you're not currently doing and grasp onto it and start doing it starting tomorrow. Because again, all those little simple things that might not seem like it mounts up to much really does make a difference when we're all doing it. So it's important to strive for an energy efficient home. It certainly not only is better for the environment, but it's better for your pocketbook. In the United States, $1 million is spent per minute on energy. We can look to buy Energy Star electronics and appliances, to use a power strip for appliances and electronics, to turn off at night and on the weekends, switch to energy efficient LED bulbs, turn thermostats down in the winter and up in the summer, open windows when we can, pull shades down when it's sunny. Look for rechargeable batteries and make sure you recycle lithium. You can walk, bike, carpool, and now we can use public transportation again. And be sure to maintain your car, oil, air, and tires. And then let your fingers do the walking. Be in the know before you throw. Visit SWANCC's website to find a reuse, recycling, or safe disposal option for any household materials that you have. Sign up to receive our monthly newsletter called the Community E-List that comes out the first of the month, just once a month. And connect with SWANCC on social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. When you go to the agency's website, the screen will show you 4 different boxes that have materials pertaining to the reuse and recycling directory, all about chemicals and paint, recycling FAQs. I think we now have about 15 in there. So how to best manage paint, how to best manage batteries, where to take certain things like helium tanks, and then about our transfer station. And then these are drop-down menus to find out more under resources. There are a lot of educational resources, videos, brochures, and the guides that I had mentioned. So don't be a stranger to SWANCC's website. Click it and click often. So this is my last slide where I get to say thank you very much for being part of this presentation tonight. And thank you for whatever it is that you're willing to do to reduce your waste and your carbon footprint. Together, we need to move forward to advocate for policies, technology, and practices that protect our Earth, reduce our carbon footprint, and ensure a healthier, more equitable world to sustain families and generations that follow. So thank you for your time tonight. And if you want to hang out for a little bit, I will stop sharing my screen and be happy to answer questions that you might have.
Awesome. Give me 1 second.
There we go.
Answer one question. Okay, we have a lot of great things in the chat. Okay, we're gonna go with the first one that just came in. Any suggestions for recycling styrofoam, especially black, blue, pink, food trays, and egg cartons?
Okay. Apt Electronics will only take the white expanded They generate so much that they can, the packaging, as far as those other things, they can be, if you feel like going out to Aurora, Dart, the manufacturer of these styrofoam items, has a drop off for them as long as they're clean.
Awesome. I'm one of those people that would totally just collect all my styrofoam and then go with my friends once a year to Dart in Aurora and take it all.
I can tell
Okay.
you that I'm in conversation with the Village of Mount Prospect. They are going to be looking to apply for a grant to buy a densifier that would be able to take all the different types of styrofoam that you just mentioned, Emily, along with the big block. It's not going to happen real soon. It's in the works, but if they do get this grant and SWANCC gives some in-kind money to them, they would take styrofoam from the whole region.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I'm very excited for that opportunity. Okay, next we have Starbucks/Dunkin' coffee cups. You said are not recyclable. If we've been collecting those, do you have any place that we can dispose of them besides the garbage?
I don't.
No.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know
No
that's not
problem.
what you want to hear.
I know. Next one, an expired carbon monoxide alarm.
You're not going to like this either. It used to, the manufacturer used to say mail them back, but then we found out that when people were mailing them back, they were just going in the garbage.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yep.
I will say, and
So there's not an alternative right now for except the garbage for those.
Okay. I'm also going to put in the chat right now before we get anywhere. I'm putting in the chat a link. Hang on to everybody. A link to our Earth Month resources page. I did get a list of local recycling options from SWANCC's website that I compiled for Arlington Heights and the closest area. And Arlington Heights, the village does collect some small electronics, but carbon monoxide detectors was not on that list. So carbon monoxide detectors in the garbage. Next is printer cartridges.
The ink printers, you can go on the reuse and recycling site. I mean, there's a lot of even companies like Staples, Office Depot, places that sell them sometimes have a return on those. If in one of the brochures that I have is called, and I don't have it right here with me, Closing the Loop. There is a company called Planet Ink Planet. I can't even think of it, that you can mail. They actually give you postage paid. I'm looking at my desk. Oh, here. So it's called Doorstep Ink Cartridges, and they remanufacture. So we have, it's called doorstepink.com. And as long as you have 4 or more, they will send you packaging and postage to mail them. But you can look just locally because there are other, and on SWANCC's website, there are other mail-in options.
Awesome. Next one is plastic bottles like the Coke bottle. You said that you should keep the cap on or off.
Once it's empty and clean, you can put it back on. And the reason for doing that is those plastic bottles are getting light weighted, which means there's less material to it. I mean, if you pick up sometimes a water bottle, it just crunches in your hand. So by emptying, cleaning, and putting the cap back on, that kind of helps hold the integrity of that plastic bottle. So once it gets in the recycling truck and the compaction and the transportation and then being dumped on the tipping floor at the sorting facility, there's a chance that it might not get completely flattened because plastic items are sorted by an optical sorter. And if it's dog flat, it will go on the paper side of life. So by keeping the cap on bottles and jugs, that helps hold the containers together.
Awesome. Another question is about pizza boxes. So greasy pizza boxes cannot be recycled, have to go in the garbage. Is there any part of the pizza box that can be recycled?
Oftentimes it's you can look at the pizza half and half. The bottom part that had the pizza is soiled with grease and cheese. But you can, if the top half didn't get gooed, you can rip that off and you can recycle that.
Awesome. And this is a great point that I think Linda brought up in the chat, that it's a problem in their townhouse complex that a lot of people throw away their pizza boxes. And I had a question because we have that problem in my apartment complex. Do you have any recommendations or tips for getting your community more on board with recycling correctly and not wish cycling as much?
I think small groups help. You know, if you're in a condo to go, or a homeowners association, have a little town hall. SWANCC videos can help you relay the information that I just relayed to you. The guidelines you can share. In fact, please share anything that you've learned tonight that's new to you with your neighbors, with your friends, and with your family. We need to educate each other, because normally when I give a presentation just about recycling, my first words are, forget anything that you think you know, because it's an industry that is constantly changing with technology, with markets, with new packaging. To give you an example, there are over 30 different kinds of plastic packaging. The most equipped material sorting facility with the highest technology maybe can do 5. Yeah. Which is why there's legislation in Springfield right now. It's not going to be passed this year for a container bill that is not just about plastics, but it's about all containers, that the manufacturers have to have responsibility for helping to get it recycled and put it back in the circular system. Next fall, when our legislators are back in session, we're very hopeful that this legislation will move forward quickly.
That's awesome. I love that. A few years ago, before Corona, you mentioned that black takeout plastic was not recyclable at the time, but you guys were working on it. Is black plastic recyclable now?
So the group that I'm in, the task force, the recyclers have said there is a market for black plastic. The problem is the optical sorters can't identify it, and they're working on it. So if you put black plastic in, it may or may not get recycled right now.
All right. But like you said, every year something new. We're always hopeful that technology will catch up with how much we want to recycle. Anything that you can do with an old George Foreman grill, recycling wise?
It's got a lot of metal on it. There are metal recyclers that you can go on SWANCC's reuse and recycling directory to see and call them to say, I have a George Foreman grill. Chances are they work with the guys who come around our communities with the trucks. The best way to get it recycled and the least amount of effort is to leave it out by your garbage and your recycling cart the day before pickup or 2 days before pickup if the weather's nice. And my guess is one of those trucks will gladly pick that up, and it will be recycled, because some of the scrap metal places will not deal with just a person with a thing. It has to be tonnage.
Can you repeat where to take prescription bottles for recycling? And in the meantime, I will say, yes, you will get a list of all the resources that we are mentioning. I have been taking notes, and Mary has all of her notes, and tomorrow we'll send out another survey email in case you won't do the survey tonight, and I'll have all of this information for you. So, and this has also been recorded, so you can watch this again after the fact.
So the Closing the Loop brochure is one that has lots and lots and lots of resources in it. And it's one that I constantly am updating. As I learn something new, I try and squeeze it in, or if something's old, I take it out. The empty pill prescription bottles go to, ready to write this in the chat, Emily?
Yes, I am.
m25m.org/pill bottles. And you can get their address, where to mail those. Postage will be on you though.
And that's what I was finding when I was looking through the recycle directory on SWANCC's website, is that for some very specific things, you will have to pay to recycle. For some specific things, especially paint, oil-based paint, latex-based paint, you definitely, every place that I found, have to pay for.
Oil-based paint can be taken to one of the 4 household hazardous waste facilities in our state. Those are Chicago, Rockford, Naperville, and Gurnee. Those are all sponsored by the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. However, they don't take latex paint, but latex paint is water-based. So if you have just a little bit, you can dry it out with kitty litter. It works really, really well and very quickly. And then once it's dry, you leave the lid off and you can put it in your garbage can. If you have full cans of paint, the Restore, the Habitat for Humanity, will take full cans, but they can't be opened. And if you have cans that have a lot of paint in it and you don't want to deal with it, then there's a lot of different Ace Hardware stores that will take it back for a fee and recycle it.
Beth H. Mill, the tech desk here at the library does take small on electronics. George Foreman grills, I think, are a little bit bigger than what we usually take. We have a list on our website that I will put in the chat. But Beth has a great question. What is the definition for clean when you're recycling?
No food or beverage residue whatsoever. We used to say spatula clean, which means you get out most of it, but and that's when we were exporting to China. And we were basically sending a lot of garbage to China in 2017-18. It's called the National Sword Policy. They cut off exportation of recycling and said, keep your own garbage. So what that's done to America, it's a national issue, is recycling infrastructures had to be built and be built better to manage our own materials. And so that's why so much of what used to be taken, you know, when the old group salesman used to say, oh yeah, throw that in your cart, throw that in your cart. It was going to China. He didn't care. Now they care, because those things coming into the stream that are contamination, they have to pay to be landfilled. And that's where the money thing comes in, where when their expenses go up, they pass it on to their customers.
So being good at recycling is not only saving the environment, but also saving your pocketbook. I love it.
If you do it right, yes.
If you do it right, if you make it clean. What are the numbers? So on the bottom of like your sour cream bottle, sour cream thing.
All
what
right.
are the numbers?
Numbers were never meant for consumers. Numbers were never meant for consumers. As often as I've talked about numbers in the past, the 1 PET and so forth, and the only thing that recyclers don't want you to look at numbers. For plastics, they want you to look, is it a bottle? Is it a jug? Is it a jar? Or is it a tub? If it's one of those things, it can be cleaned, rinsed, cleaned, and put in your recycling cart. That means no big bulk plastics. Just because something's made of plastic doesn't mean it can go in your recycling cart. It has to be a food type, beverage type product, a bottle, a jar, a jug, or a tub. So a tub could be yogurt. It could be cottage cheese. They don't want any polystyrene, which is the number 6. So how do you know if it's polystyrene if you don't look at the number? So it's a dichotomy. It's hard not to, but those plastics are not made the same. The polymers in different plastics allow different additives for being more supple, more soft, more rigid. And so that has to do with the manufacturing, and also the plastics melt at different temperatures. So those numbers help the reprocessing of the plastic containers.
So those black takeout containers that you can get from a lot of restaurants that they have a clear plastic lid, but the bottoms are black. Those are not recyclable.
So you can look at the bottom. A lot of them are a polypropylene, they're number 5. So I would say put the black polypropylene in your recycling cart, because that's what recyclers have said. You can put it in until they get the technology fine-tuned. It might not get recycled, but don't do lids. Take the lids off. The only lids that should stay on anything are PET bottles, beverage bottles, and number 2 jars, the jugs.
Just jugs, not sour cream, yogurt.
Unless it's a large metal that goes on a glass, like a jar of pickles, that can be recycled.
Okay.
But not beer caps. They're too small.
Can plastic litter bags be recycled?
Plastic litter bags, like a shopping bag?
I feel like usually they have their plastic on the outside and they have a
I just
round,
see kitty litter.
Yeah.
Is that the same person? No, they can't be recycled in your curbside cart. And most of them, because it's a crumbly plastic, they don't want them at the grocery stores either. So they're garbage. The big pet food bags. Unless there starts to be like a TerraCycle, you can buy boxes. They have a lot of zero waste boxes. Some of them are free, some of them cost money.
A tip for all you people who own pets, I do use my dog food, my huge dog food bag, as just a second trash bag. If I have something, that's my little tip. That's what I use it for. So even if there's a recycling triangle on the container, it doesn't necessarily mean it's recyclable.
Labels are very misleading. And that's why the flyer, I tried to use real pictures to give you examples. And what you see on that flyer, that's it. Curbside recycling is very limited. With our technology, it's very limited. 5 years from now, I hope we can be doing better. But for right now, it is what it is. And it's best, when in doubt, to throw it out.
That's a great tip. When in doubt, throw it out. So like Beth says, for a peanut butter jar, you can never get that clean.
It's tough. The plastic glass has, glass is a little bit better. If you, hot water is in soap with glass has more impact in cleaning with the oil than in plastic. And then you have to think about too, the resources that you're using and the energy you're using to get that container clean. And just use common sense, I would say.
What about the berry containers, the plastic ones?
Yes, the thermoform containers are now accepted as long as they're not polystyrene. That clear plastic that the berries come in, the manufacturers have really switched it up to put it into PET. But oftentimes, in fact, if I were with you at the library, I would pick up one that is a number 6 and a number 1, and they're identical for just us to look at. So you really, for something like that, you do have to look at the bottom to make sure it's not a number 6.
No, number 6. White containers like tofu containers or white takeout containers similar to the black ones can be recycled.
Recyclers are asking for single serve takeout containers to be thrown away.
What about old makeup? Do you have any tips on old makeup?
No, except I know that there's some lines. that will either take back. I know Aveda a long time ago would take back their containers. And they were working on doing reusable components. So there are some sustainable beauty companies that you can look in the marketplace guide. I know that I have some beauty, a page on beauty in there to see. But mostly it's, you look at if it's powder or if it's makeup or lipstick, it's multi-material. And then you've got still the residue, whether it's powder, eyeshadow, lipstick. So that's contamination. So it really has to be a company that is either taking it back for you. And if not, chances are it's probably garbage. But I will tell you that shampoo and bottles, a lot of things in your bathroom, shampoo, aerosol cans that are empty, completely empty. Those kinds of plastic bottles can be, if they're clean, can be recycled. If you have a pump, make sure you throw the pump away.
Awesome. Aluminum cans, tin cans, these are still curbside recyclable.
Yes.
Yay. Aluminum is aluminum a great alternative to plastic bottles? If you can get canned water, is that better than aluminum?
You know what else? I'm starting
bottles?
to see a lot of cartons pop up for water and wine and other things. Cartons can be recycled. Your milk carton, your juice carton, juice boxes, no straws. Broth. I buy broth at Trader Joe's in the carton. So those can be recycled. And, there are life cycle analysis about all the resources that have to be extracted, trees that have to be cut down, the transportation, the product, the shelf life. So there, if you're really interested in knowing more about really which is better, because if you were to ask me from a life cycle analysis, which is better, a plastic bag or a paper bag, the plastic bag wins. It's lighter. It's less materials, but it doesn't mean that it's better. So again, there are a lot of different studies on looking at different materials and what they're made from the beginning until the point of use.
Mm-hmm. Can paper that has crayon or marker on it be recycled?
Yes.
Coffee K-cups. Those are a tough one, I know.
No. We have an espresso here at work, only because there's 3 of us, and only, we're really sporadic coffee drinkers. Sometimes we have it just to have a cup for guests that are coming in for meetings. Or if I have a big meeting, I have a pot that I make with loose coffee. But the K-cups are not recyclable yet. Canada has been in a pilot program with Keurig. Keurig even labeled them recyclable and got sued because they're not. They're very small. Oftentimes people don't clean the coffee out, and in America they're not recyclable. The Nespresso, however, the pods are made of aluminum, and I don't drink coffee here, but I've seen it made, and it's very interesting because once the coffee is brewed, there you flip a switch, you flip it up, and it goes automatically into a storage bin, and then Nespresso takes it back for recycling.
That's cool.
And also there for Nespresso, for Keurig, there are reusable. We have a stainless steel here because we used to have a Keurig. We have a stainless steel reusable cup for making your coffee.
Awesome.
As a solution.
That's a great zero waste solution, less waste solution. What about the pots from plants? Like those plastic pots that you get your plants in when you first buy them. If they don't have any soil left in them.
Not in your curbside cart. There are a couple places that we have on our reuse and recycling directory that you can take them to for reuse.
I'm going to put the directory in the chat right now so people have that link.
So when you go to the reuse and recycling directory, There's a map because it's GIS based, and go underneath the map. And there's a little white box to say, what are you trying to recycle? And you just type in, and if it's in the database, it'll pop up and you click on it and then click on search. And then the options closest to you will show up first.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, this is invaluable. It's an invaluable directory. I used it so much the past month trying to put together our list. Are paper towels recyclable?
No, nor tissue paper.
Nor tissue paper.
But they're
What
made from
about-
recycled paper. They have recycled content in it, but it's at the end of the rung, so to speak, with the toilet paper and the tissue. Oftentimes too, we put germs in it. So it's like, throw it away.
Do the recycling and garbage truck people know which truck to put large items in? So if the garbage truck comes by first, will they just pick it up even if you meant it for recycling? Or should you put a sign on it?
No, they have their routes. And so in my community, landscape comes first. I have Groot in my community. Landscape truck comes first, picks up my organics. Then the garbage comes. There's a truck that comes by, and then it comes back for recycling. Not in the same. It empties its load at the transfer station, and then it'll circle back around and pick up recycling. So oftentimes it may look like the same truck, but it's different loads.
Paper with paint on it, can you recycle that?
Paper with paint, you can. It's going to go to a lower grade paper. A lot of the paint, especially if it's washable, will come out in the water as it's being reprocessed. If it's acrylic, something that isn't going to dissipate, I would say no. If it's watercolor based, you could. Clean paper, office paper has the highest value, and the children's school paper is kind of goes into a mixed load, where the office paper is really desirable. It's a higher market value, and it gets made into, it has longer fiber, so it gets made into a higher quality paper product.
And what about construction paper and shiny cardstock that you get in the mail with junk mail? And
so
ads?
glossy paper can be recycled. The magazines, the junk mail, yes, glossy can be recycled. Construction paper, it's up to your recycler. It's best to check with Groot on construction paper. And then there was, I saw a shredded paper came up. Do not recycle in your curbside cart shredded paper. It's a mess. It's a mess in the community and the neighborhood, and it gets into all the material streams. If you have shredded paper that you do at home and you want to see it recycled, put it in a bag, a paper bag, a craft paper bag, staple it shut, and bring it to one of SWANCC's shredding events. We'll just toss it in the truck. Or don't go through if you have documents with sensitive information, bring that to our shredding event, and it gets shredded on site and recycled.
How often do you do those shredding events?
I have 20 scheduled and only one down, 19 to go.
So many opportunities.
We're working on putting a whole season schedule together. Usually we just list month by month, and that's a good reason to be on our e-list, because we send you out the electronics recycling and the shredding events month by month, but you can go on our calendar, and we have the whole season on our calendar. But we're working on just a printout for people who aren't as familiar with the internet and website that we can mail.
Anne said, use shredded paper as packing material when shipping things if it doesn't have your sensitive information.
Sure. And once it's cross shredded, it's really hard to pull information from. You can compost it too. If you're composting.
And
But again,
Groot,
if you put it in your cart, even if you put it in your landscape cart, it has the ability to go up and cause a party. You know, it's just so light and airborne that it just really causes a mess. And it's hard to quantify. In a compost, it's a little bit easier, and you do it in small amounts. You can wet it before you put it in your compost.
And I did see this question come through the chat earlier. Groot does do composting in Arlington Heights. It is an added fee. If you look up on our village website, which I will send in the email tomorrow, you can look up that information about how Groot can help you compost if you don't have the ability to compost at your house or the space.
Right. I know that I was just, I got the brochure tonight just to make sure that I had the latest and the greatest information. And about the compost, a 95 gallon, which is pretty big, from April 4th through December 16th is $170.03. And then a 65 gallon, which is most of our recycling carts are 65 gallon. It's $154.01 per season. And it's really limited to what you can do: fruits and vegetables, bread, grain, dairy, no liquids, which means cheese, coffee grounds and tea leaves. That's it. And that's basically what you can put in your own compost at home. Can't put dairy, except dairy. Can't put dairy, can't put meat, can't put bones, shells. Those all need higher temperatures and have to go to a commercial facility.
Awesome. Number 5, PP can be recycled.
Yes.
Yes.
As long as it's a bottle, a jug, a jar, or a tub.
And I will be sending that. There is an infographic that is beautiful that I will send in that email tomorrow. Just a couple more. Do you have to take the tape and labels off of all boxes when you recycle them?
It's important to take off excess. If there's excess tape, pull it off. If it won't come off, leave it on. But do your best to just kind of strip a box of any excess packaging. A lot of them have, when you get a FedEx, it's a plastic label. Those pull off really easy, and then just throw it away.
Old audio and VHS tapes.
There are places that you can mail them to for recycling. But if you choose not to go that route, they're garbage. Unless you can ask your library, are you taking any kind of DVDs, CDs, VHS there, Emily?
Our friends of the library do collect VHSs and DVDs and everything for our friends of the library sale. So I can also put that in the email, and they have drop-off days specifically for donating. So great.
That's great. Good. Because that's what I have on my website is check with your local library.
Yeah. And then we have sales 4 times a year that people can come and buy your DVDs from you. It's really awesome. You can find something cool. When disposing latex paint, is there anything else to dry it out besides kitty litter? You can just leave it to dry out. It just won't will take a long time?
If you leave it in an open area where there aren't pets or children, like in a garage, that's secure, or even in a basement, you can leave it the lid off. It takes longer to dry out. And if you have a lot of paint, it's really going to take a long time to dry out. But if you have patience, that works. I know Ace Hardware stores will sell solvents too. But kitty litter is what I used in our video, if you care to look at it on the website, just to show you how to do it and that it really works. I was so surprised how fast it worked. And if you have a cat at home, you can empty its litter box into your latex paint and then throw it away.
Perfect. Beth said that there is commercial composting in Evanston that includes used tissue, paper towel, and almost everything. There have been more and more commercial composting services that have popped up in the Chicagoland area. It's an added fee, and they come and they can pick up your compost and then do it at their own facility. And some of them also help let you go in the summer, pick up the compost they made and use it in your backyard. So that's also an option if that's in your budget and that's something that you're interested in doing. There's lots of different ones.
So Evanston has a franchise where only one composter does the pickup. It's called Collective Resource, and they're taking their materials to a different compost site than Group does. And that's the difference that allows them to do more. And also it's year round, which is really nice.
That's really nice that you don't have to go out yourself and turn your own compost in the snow. We will end with this question that I think is a very interesting question. What is the most valuable thing to recycle?
Cardboard boxes. Right now, the value of the cardboard box exceeds aluminum cans. And that changes month by month. You know, we get industry publications here that will talk about the markets, and it's really supply and demand. People have been working at home. So therefore, there's been a lull with the office paper coming into the recycling stream for recyclers nationwide. And that's why there was a toilet paper shortage. Remember that during COVID? Other than people, you know, overbuying. But then when it came to finally things leveled out a little bit, there wasn't as much office paper and paper in the recycling stream. And that's what paper gets made into, new paper products. Cardboard boxes will be made into new cardboard and other kinds of paper products. But right now the cardboard is has the highest value out of all the carton materials. So it's important to keep it dry. Flatten it, put it in your cart, close your lid, and keep it dry. Paper needs to be dry.
Do you have any tips on keeping the lid of your recycling closed on blustery days like today?
You know, if you have a brick, if you have something heavy, the hard thing about it is, you know, the way the trucks are now with the ergodynamic arm that comes out, lifts, and then shakes. If you have something on top, it will fall. And I don't know if it'll fall on the ground or if it's going to go in the truck. That's the, and the guy doesn't want to get out. He doesn't want to spend the time to get out and take it off each, you know, that would just make his route go much longer. And, you know, they all have to have their materials to designated places by finite hours. And so they're really under the gun to pick up and get to transport it. What you could do is, you know, keep a brick on it until the garbage or the recycling truck comes, and remove it that morning. I was behind a waste management truck on my way to work today, and I saw it picking up at a house, and it emptied its load and things blew. And I thought to myself, I'm looking in my rearview mirror to see what the driver does. He got out and he walked around and he picked up the debris. So it was nice to see that responsibility, but I do know it takes extra time.
It's something that we can also start doing a little bit of in our neighborhoods too. Well, that was the end of our questions. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on this Tuesday evening. Again, Mary, thank you so much for this presentation. We love it.
Emily, thank you. And feel free to put my email in the chat for anybody who has questions beyond. You're welcome to email me, and I will try and answer the best I can.
And again, tomorrow we will send out an email with all this information, with the handouts, with the flyers, with my notes, with the links to all the organizations that Mary mentioned, and then also to SWANCC and their plethora of resources on their website. You can't go wrong with SWANCC. Really, that's my first place to go if I ever have a recycling question. And you'll get all of that tomorrow. in an email. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. You're getting so many awesome presentations in the chat. And thank you, Mary, again.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Emily. And I will work on getting you just some after links that you can add to.
Perfect.
That I think that will be helpful. So thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for being so informed on recycling, and we'll see you next time.
All righty.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.